Hi, hello, hi. So this is one of many attempts to finally make a video series on abuse. I'm not going to get into how many times I've filmed this and not uploaded the video because I'm never satisfied with it, but I've decided to break this down into small chunks and tackle different topics in each video. So today's video, I would like to focus on gaslighting. Understanding what this is was the gateway to me understanding a lot of the emotional abuse that I went through and understanding why it was wrong and understanding that it wasn't my fault. And that feeling like it was my fault was part of the whole gaslighting thing. So we're gonna get right into it. What is gaslighting? So gaslighting is a type of emotional abuse in which the gaslighter, the abuser, gets the gaslightee, the victim, to doubt their own perception of reality. They do this in a number of ways. There are a lot of different gaslighting techniques. I'm going to go over those techniques in an attempt to have you better understand what gaslighting is. The first question is, how do people gaslight? So I'm going to base this off of an article from Psychology Today because it was very easily broken down. So the first gaslighting technique I'm going to touch on is lies and exaggeration. Usually the gaslighter will invent this negative narrative about the victim, in which the victim is inadequate, underperforming, not good enough, basically, and this leaves the victim constantly on the defensive. Doing this creates a power dynamic in which the victim is constantly having to explain or excuse themselves from the abuser, and the abuser, whether they're doing it consciously or not, is now placed in a position of power in which they get to grant innocence or they get to grant validity to the victim. If the victim is always apologizing and always explaining themselves, well then the abuser is always the one who gets to decide when they're doing things that are right or when they're doing things that are wrong. It almost establishes themselves as the voice of reason within the relationship or the authority figure within the relationship. Second gaslighting technique is repetition. So the negative narrative or the falsehoods from the first point are repeated. The accusations are constant, and this is again to keep the victim on the constant defense. And this keeps the abuser or the gaslighter in control of the conversation and kind of dominating the relationship. Technique number 3 is that things escalate when challenged. This was an eye-opener for me. When the gaslighter is called out on their lies or on their exaggerations or on their micromanaging, they'll escalate the situation, doubling down on their attacks, refuting substantial evidence with denial, blame, and more false claims, misdirection, turning the conversation in a different direction where they're the victim again, etc., etc. And this makes the whole conversation confusing and then once again instills doubt in the victim's mind. Next, this leads to point number 4, which is wearing out the victim. By staying on the offensive and dancing around any actual evidence, the gaslighter eventually wears out the victim. So the victim may become discouraged, resigned, pessimistic, fearful, debilitated, self-doubting, etc. And it kind of puts them back into submission, I guess. The next point from the article that I'm referring to is codependency in the relationship. So the article defines codependency as excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner. Given the dynamic that they've set up with the past couple of points that I've mentioned, the gaslighter elicits constant insecurity and anxiety in the gaslightee. The gaslighter basically has set up the dynamic that they have the power to grant acceptance, approval, respect, safety, security, and the gaslighter also has the power to take it away. So everything is the way that they say it is until they say that it is not. Basically, that's the way the relationship goes. They're the ones who decide when things are peaceful, and they're the ones who decide when things are not peaceful. You spend all of your time having to explain yourself to them, and if you choose not to agree with them or stand up for yourself in any way, then you're attacking them. It's really, really something. Point number 6. The gaslighter gives false hope. So this was another tough one for me because it is one that keeps you in the relationship and keeps you from leaving and makes you doubt that the person abusing you really is abusive or that they're actually doing something wrong. This part here is what made me understand why I had so much trouble separating myself from my abuser. So as a manipulation tactic, I would say sometimes done subconsciously. I feel like sometimes people are abusive and they don't know that they're being abusive, but this ends up being manipulative. The gaslighter will treat the victim really well. They'll treat them with kindness and sometimes even remorse. They'll seem like they're sorry. They'll make the victim feel like they're really special, and they'll make the victim feel loved, I guess. And this makes the gaslightee kind of put their guard down. Sometimes it could trick the victim into thinking, you know, maybe they're not that bad, or maybe the situation isn't as bad as I think it is. Look at the potential there is for this to be an ideal situation. Look at how much they care about me. The person who's abusing you, the person who's gaslighting you, they could be the same person who will show up at your house at 3 a.m. because you need to go to the hospital. Like, sometimes it could be that person. And they'll do these really great things, and that makes you think, like, maybe if I were just different, the situation wouldn't be the way that it is right now. But the thing about this is that sometimes then those moments of mildness or those moments of kindness, the things they've done for you, will be used as almost leverage, as a way of attacking you in the future, as a way of defending themselves when they start to abuse you. If you say that something they're doing is wrong or manipulative, they'll be like, well, how could you say that? What about all these other amazing things I've done for you? It's almost like the good that they give in is like currency to like balance out the bad things that they've done, or to completely eliminate the bad things that they've done, to make you feel like it couldn't have ever happened. Like, why would someone who does these things that are so terrible and hurtful, why would they also do these amazing things and make these sacrifices for me, or just be there for me in all of these magnificent ways? And that's really what contributes a lot to doubting your reality and feeling like, you know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it isn't actually the way that it is, because this person is such a saint. But these constant criticisms are kind of relentless. It doesn't matter what you do. I've had my abusers come at me for things that absolutely don't even involve them a little bit. Decisions that I've made within my own life that have nothing to do with them. Even if you do your best to avoid doing whatever it was that upset them the first time, or to do better, or to anything, I really, like, you could throw them a parade. You could do as much as you want, and even when you do go above and beyond, it'll be like you've done just the bare minimum. Like, finally you're treating me the way I should be treated. But the next day, if you haven't thrown them a parade, you're doing something wrong again. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation, where if you don't focus on them enough, you're a bad person, but if you do focus on them, you're feeding into their idea that they are in fact more important than you are, and that they are more deserving than you are, and that you don't deserve to even be around them. The next point number 7, is that the gaslighter will control and dominate within the relationship. And this could extend outside the relationship too. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll have you doubt others, and they'll have others doubt you, so that they break communication between you and the outside world. And it's so that they could better control the narration. They're the ones who get to establish what is acceptable, what is unacceptable. You end up kind of feeling like you're a possession of theirs. In my personal experience, the people who've abused me have been people who deal with narcissism, and learning about narcissistic personality disorder has helped me to understand why they perceive things the way that they do, and to understand that the things they've done haven't necessarily been consciously malicious. The person that they're abusing, the gaslightee, becomes their property and becomes something that exists only for their own personal gain. So anything that that person does needs to be beneficial to the gaslighter, and if it's not, then they'll spin it in a way where they are being mistreated, or they deserve to be apologized to. Basically, the gaslightee is not allowed the space to be an autonomous person, and if they make decisions without consulting the gaslighter, then, you know, all hell breaks loose. Understanding what gaslighting is was a big step for me in understanding what was going on with my life, and asserting my boundaries, and understanding that asserting my boundaries is okay. If I know that I'm not doing anything wrong, all I'm doing is being autonomous and respecting my boundaries, and my abuser decides that I need to explain that, or I owe them something more of myself, I vowed to myself that I wouldn't get involved and I wouldn't engage the next time. But it doesn't work, and this is where the cycle of abuse sets in, because you have a couple of options when the cycle starts up again. They've decided that something you've done is wrong, regardless as to whether or not you've done anything, even if it doesn't involve them at all. Let's just say, for an example, you've decided to go see your dad, and they're upset because, well, you haven't seen me in 2 weeks, and it feels like you never really make the time for me. It feels like you don't really care about this relationship. And those are all very loaded accusations that they'll use to evoke a response out of you, and to almost force you into giving a response. Because if you don't respond, then you're proving their point right. You're proving that you don't care about this relationship, you have no intention of making time for them, and you don't care about their feelings. And then if you do respond, you either agree with them and bow your head and apologize, in which case you are feeding in, again, to the delusion that they are important, and they do have this power over you, and they get to decide what is right and wrong, and you basically have to apologize for having boundaries. Or the explanation, even if you're really calm, going the route of like, well, I've just been really busy. And then they push for more. It's like, well, why? It's like, well, I'm busy. I have a lot of stuff going on. It's like, well, you don't care. It's like, why do you feel like, why are you saying that? And it'll continue to escalate from there. It'll be, well, because you're not making any time. It doesn't even seem like you care right now. And it's like, it's not that I don't care. I don't feel like arguing with you over my schedule. And then it'll become like, why are you giving me that attitude? It's like, I'm not giving you attitude. Why do you feel entitled to my entire life? So this is just a brief explanation, me doing my absolute best here to try to explain to you why controlling abusive relationships paired with gaslighting techniques sometimes are just, they're unbearable and there's nothing you can do about them. I spent so much time blaming myself and just thinking, next time if I just did this, next time if I just said this, next time I'll make sure that I give them so much love and praise and attention that even if I go see my dad and I don't see that person for 2 weeks, they're gonna know that I love them. No, there's nothing you can do. At the end of the day, it's not about what you're doing. Nothing you do will be enough for them. It is to keep you in check and to keep them in power. They feel like they own you. And it's really messed up when this happens. And when I came to this realization, you realize that no matter how strongly you establish your boundaries in the future, there's a good chance that those boundaries will create conflict. They are so used to being entitled to everything about you, to essentially almost owning you like property, that once you set up a boundary, they're allowed to question it. And if you choose not to have to explain yourself to them, if you choose not to let that boundary down, when I decide that I'm done explaining myself to my abuser, they feel that in losing power in the relationship, they are the ones being attacked. Merely because I have set boundaries and I have refused to let them take control over my life anymore. And I no longer have the energy to dedicate to explaining every boundary they encounter in my life. Because every time they encounter a boundary, it'll be, but why? And they're upset, so you have to explain, this is why the boundary is there. It is nothing personal against you. But that gets exhausting because even when you do that, it'll be, why are you talking to me like that? I'm going through so much right now. How do you don't care about me? And it's like this constant, they try everything. They try every way in and it's exhausting. As you can see, this is really hard to explain and it's really complicated. And it makes it that when you do try to confide in someone, a therapist, a friend, a family member, just try to tell them like, this is what's been going on, you sound like a conspiracy theorist. And that's also part of the gaslighter's elaborate plan. Gaslighting is a hard one because of the fact that you're likely the only one to really know the full extent of what's going on. A lot of victims will end up being isolated if they cut themselves off from their abusers, or they'll be villainized. But I'm here to tell you, sometimes stepping away from a situation is self-care. Regardless as to whether or not you've been abused, I have realized that leaving someone is never an act of abuse. Threatening to leave someone to get them to do what you want, leaving momentarily to get them to do what you want, that's abusive, that's manipulative. But literally leaving, ending a relationship, breaking up with someone, moving out, leaving is never abusive. Don't let anyone gaslight you into believing otherwise. Autonomy, it's not abusive. Boundaries are not abusive. That is my biggest piece of advice to anyone else who's been in an abusive relationship or anyone else who's dealt with someone gaslighting them. I have a lot more to say about this, but this video is getting very long, so this will be gaslighting part 1, and I will make a gaslighting part 2. I hope this was okay. I still don't like it. I'm still not satisfied, but honestly, I don't know how else to say it at this point, so I'm just gonna start trying to say it in little chunks. That's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day and a great week, and you take care of yourselves. Alright, thanks. Bye.